Hello everybody, this is Django Wild, and today we're going to be taking a look at a video, and I'll be doing a commentary on it, and it's relative to the Sonic fanbase, Sonic games, and pretty much anything related to the Blue Speedster. And without further ado, let's get this underway, shall we? Voice acting and character models, yes, to a degree that could possibly be an issue. But for Sonic and, him having green eyes and becoming a little bit more slim, that does not affect gameplay, it does not affect story, and it does not affect anything that, would alter an experience of a Sonic game. As for voice acting, there are a lot of games out there that are fun that had terrible voice acting. For one, pretty much any Mega Man X game past 4 that had voice acting, those games were relatively fun, but dear God, the voice acting was absolutely terrible. But as I said, voice acting, yes, as though it may be important to some people, voice acting and, character models aren't going to affect, any of the main aspects that would alter a video game experience other than personal preferences that are really, somewhat biased depending on what generation you picked up on Sonic games. Doesn't really affect the actual game. Now, let's just say classic Sonic, had green eyes and was slim. Let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that, well, he did have that. The character design would not even be a problem to this very day. The only thing that's really different that affects the Sonic games now is the route that they're trying to take it with these gimmicks and poorly written side stories and spin-offs and such things of that nature. Now, let's move on.
Just for proof that you guys are just finding something to complain about, they have been using this model of Sonic for 10 years. Why didn't you complain about it for 10 years?
Now, the only problem I have with this whole fans of the original classic have been complaining, for 10 years, is the simple fact that it's giving this real generalization that all classic Sonic fans are, complaining about the design. I mean, I'm a classic Sonic fan, and I'm not complaining about the design. All of my friends aren't complaining about the new design. I just thought it was kind of funny how they threw that in there. Well, as for that video and the comments that we're about to see from said video, I will say this about it. I have seen that video, and I've read the video description, and the same exact 7 Sonic games that he has listed are, well, my favorite Sonic games as well. But see, it had the Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 had the new Sonic, design-wise. But see, that was not the problem. The problem lies with the gameplay. Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2 were both solid games with great gameplay. Sega delivered and they put everything into it. They made sure it was a finished product, one that could be sold, and you could respectively say, we made this. But lately, no offense to Sega and Sonic Team, but either A, they've been getting lazy, or B, they forgot that in order for a game to, well, be good, you actually have to try when you make it. I mean, I don't mind, the spin-offs that we have, but it's just that they take gimmicks and they go so far with them that it doesn't even feel like a Sonic game. And it's either that or the story is just so wonky that, honestly, it just feels like some type of giant drug trip that everybody's going on because we're in a storybook, then we're wielding swords, and then what Sonic's essence to the core is lost. actually, it doesn't really matter. Because the dubbed version of Sonic X pretty much took the Japanese version, broke it down into retarded little tidbits that really, had nothing to do with the original source from the Japanese anime, and completely, honestly, just made it completely derp and retarded. If you were to actually watch the Japanese one, even though he only had 3 spikes, it was a pretty enjoyable spectacle to watch. I mean, 4 kids, they just had a tendency to ruin everything they get their hands on. So I wouldn't say 3 spikes is the messed up part. I would say 4 kids is just the messed up part. That's just my opinion on that. But I will say this. If you watch the Japanese with the English subs, I know a lot of people don't like reading subs, but you will get a much better and more appealing experience from doing that than watching anything 4 kids gets their hands on. Now, even though I do prefer the old games, there's one flaw with this comment that I'm really going to have to really pick up on, and it's the you would know its originality and prefer the older ones. Now, just because they were there for the old times doesn't necessarily mean they are forced to have the same opinion as, well, you and I. I mean, I understand that, a lot of people still do prefer the old ones, but if they prefer the new ones, you shouldn't hold that against them. I don't know, something about that comment during that little portion just kind of rubbed me as kind of just like egging on, the new age Sonic fans, or, people who played the old games but just happen to prefer the new ones. I mean, the simple fact that we all have different opinions about the game just proves that we're human, and, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, I have played and I have beaten Sonic 4, and I will say this. The physics were pretty out of whack, pretty wonky, and had some pretty funky stuff going on. But I will say this. They didn't affect me all that much for the simple reason that it's a Sonic game. I hardly have any reason to where I wouldn't be holding right on the control stick to where having forward momentum being lost would be much of an issue. Now, yes, I understand that's a pretty decent complaint, and it's one that Sega should be called out on, but I just don't see it being, this huge game breaker of a complaint that a lot of Sonic fans are really making it out to be. Now, I'm not addressing the comments right here, I'm just kind of shedding light on what's in bold right now. But he spelled physics wrong when physics was one of the underlined words. And in the video that I'm responding to, he's correcting people on spelling. That makes me worried. Well, yeah, this person is right. You cannot judge a game by the way a character looks, but at the same time, over the recent years, the gameplay of Sonic games have been subpar at best, starting with Sonic Heroes. Now, like I said, this comes down to preference once again, even though personally I think that, hating the new Sonic just over his simple new design is rather stupid. Because it doesn't affect gameplay, but people are going to think what they're going to want to think regardless. But Raveakidd, I just hope that, that the design thing isn't your main gripe with it. Now, I can agree on that. The Sonic fan base is pretty much just run into the ground. But as for Sonic 4 being a terrible game, I'm going to say Sonic 4 is a pretty decent game. Not saying it's good, not saying it's bad, but it was fairly decent. I mean, sure, they had that little physics issue where, you don't have full momentum. But I have to ask you, as a Sonic fan, in a Sonic game, why would you ever, over a pit, let go of the D-pad? I ask you. I mean, they're complaining about Sonic not having enough momentum, or, if you jump in the air while running full speed and then you let go of the D-pad, you fall. Now, yes, that is an issue that you can bring up with Sega, because Sega said they're going to fix these issues, once the fans tell them what the issues are on, whatever website they're taking these complaints on, and they're going to fix it for episode 2. As for, the momentum, though, why would you ever, over a jump in a Sonic game, why would you ever have a reason to take your thumb off the D-pad in the direction that you were going, unless there was a wall, where the momentum wouldn't even affect you because the wall would have stopped you regardless? I mean, that's just my view on that whole physics issue. But like I said, to each their own on this. I mean, I'm not trying to come off as a jerk about, you're part of the fan base's opinion. I mean, I just personally think that it's a stupid one if it's on design and, you're saying Sonic 4 is terrible just because of a small physics problem. Now, maybe you play Sonic 4 in a way that is so backwards that it does, get so hindered and so drawn down by the way the physics works. And I just happen to, just play it in such a generic fashion that the physics didn't really bother me that much. Or maybe I'm just not asking, as much from Sega as you and the guys who hate Sonic 4 are. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, this is my video response, and do what thou wilt with it. Have a good day, and, well, quite frankly, an even better tomorrow.